Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leathercraft, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a leather element, drop it in the comment box below. We get a lot of questions from folks asking, what cut of leather should I be using? Or what's the best cut of leather? As a crafter, the answer is probably going to surprise you. Now, if you're new to leather, a tannery is simply going to cut a whole hide down into smaller sections. They'll sell a whole hide, and we'll look at that. But they're going to cut this down for two reasons. Affordability, absolutely, but also waste or yield to the end user, the production shop. Now, as crafters, budget, definitely going to play a part in this, but the bigger part, what will our workspace accommodate? Because as long as we get a quality cut of leather, a smaller cut, more affordable, and easier to deal with in our shop. We're going to look at that as well. So let's do this. Let's step over to our pattern table. Just a quick overview of chrome versus veg. That's going to make everything make a little bit more sense. We've got a great video that's got all the differences between the chrome and the veg, but this is just a ballpark view. Now, chrome tans. These are our upholstery and garment leathers. So typically a lighter weight, usually supple, but now we have these beautiful rich colors and gorgeous prints. So this is going to go to clothing or car seats, airline seats, sofas, recliners. We're over here, a veg tan. What the tannery has done is they're going to tan this up to a certain point. Then it's up to us. Okay, let's do that. With a veg tan, now we can stamp it, we can tool it, we can wet form it. In fact, this holster is actually in the works. I'm wet forming this to the gun. We can add dye, antique, paint, top coat. If it sounds like my favorite leather to work with, it absolutely is. In fact, there's the same holster with a black dye and top coat. I love the veg tan. Now, natural, most common. But we've got multiple leathers that are veg tan, but already pre-dyed. In fact, that's our holster leather, and I love to work with this. Okay, so we got a feel for the difference. Let's jump over to our main table and look at some cuts. Let's start right here, right at the top, because this is a whole hide, or more commonly known just as a hide, H-I-D-E. That's going to make sense in just a minute. This is a cow, so therefore we're looking at 45, maybe 50 square feet of leather. Unmanageable for us crafters, because what I've got here is almost 8.5 feet long by about 8, give or take, feet wide. In fact, it hangs off just as much on this side of the table as that side. Well, now typically our whole hides only come in chrome tans. Well, that makes sense because the garment or upholstery people, they're going to be cutting larger panels. Think of a sofa cushion or a pillow. So this is going to work for them. But in our workspace, this is going to be tough to deal with. Okay, so we've got a hide. Let's jump over to a side, S-I-D-E, because this is exactly half of a hide. This is one of our Weaver Select sides in the natural veg, but chromes typically come in sides just as well as hides. But notice how beautiful that leather is. Anyway, now I know, sales pitch. Now we're down to about 24 square feet, give or take. This is getting more manageable to me. But still, this is a big piece of leather if we've got a small workspace. When we buy smaller cuts, we're going to be paying more per square foot. Well, it's a quantity deal. That's exactly right. But all told, for me, I'll pay a little bit more to have a piece of leather that's a little bit more manageable depending on my workspace. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to roll this back up. Let's pull out a couple of cuts that are more common for us crafters. This is a double shoulder. As the name implies, this is both shoulder blades on the hide. Now with this, the higher end belt makers, they like this cut because they're cutting across the hide instead of lengthwise. They say that's going to give them a little less stretch. In my opinion, quality is the difference there. I'll cut a strap out of whatever I have in stock. But notice, look at that nice tight grain. It's a quality piece of leather, about 14 square feet, relatively affordable. Okay, let's take one more step down for us crafters, because we're going to cut this double shoulder in half. That's going to give us a single shoulder. I use this in most of my videos because it's a very affordable piece of leather. Now, we may not have the length here for belts, but all manner of projects will come out of this. And again, very affordable to us. One last piece. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say this for our crafters, or use this for our crafters, but if you're new at leather, this is a perfect place to start. This is called a belly. Yeah, you can see this is simply trimmed off of our side because this is the least preferable piece for a production shop. But for us, incredibly affordable. We get ample leather out of this, and the big point there is we're not stressing over the cost of the leather. So when we're new, we start cutting and have a great time with it. All right, we're going to reset. We're going to look at a couple of pieces here that are more common to the production shops. This is a single bend. And in fact, this is in our Weaver Select English Bridle. It's one of the most beautiful leathers we carry. So with a single bend, the tannery is stripped off the belly and part of the shoulder. So what a production shop is going to get is a very square piece of leather. So if that shop is making straps or belts, high yield, low waste. That's the point. We've got about 30 inches across and maybe about 60 inches in length. Ample room for belts. Now, a double bend. Just think of two of these. I don't even have one of these in my shop. That's a piece of leather that's going to be about 60 inches wide. But again, a very clean cut for the production shops. Now the last one, backs and double backs. This is the full length of the hide. These can run up to 85 to 100 inches long. And if you think about it, for a belt maker, they very likely could get two small or two medium belts out of one strap. So again, the point here, yield and efficiency. I hope this lifts the mystery surrounding cuts. When we look at it this way, they all make perfect sense. So as crafters, as long as we start with a quality leather, that's right, the cut is more dependent on our budget and our workspace. Now as a side note, you'll always notice that veg tan is always more expensive per foot than chrome tans. The simple reason there, it takes longer to tan a veg tan than a chrome tan. So I hope this is good information for you, and I hope it allows you to pick just the right cut of leather. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.